Welcome to the Growth Whisperers, where everything we talk about is building enduring great companies. My name is Brad Giles, and as always, I'm joined today by my co-host, Kevin Lawrence. Good day, Kevin. You're looking good. I hope that you're doing good.
I am doing good. Life is good. Life is grand.
Excellent, excellent. We like to start things off always with a word or phrase of the day. What might be your word or phrase of the day?
Mine is connected adventures. And it's one of my mantras in my life is there's nothing like adventures with people that you love to be connected with. And with that connection, you go have great experiences. And the highlights of my life are just great experiences with people I care about. So connected adventures. And I think life is just this great big grand adventure. And there's the connection you have with the people at work, the connection you have with your friends, connection with your partner, connection with your family, just connected. And when you take those connections and then have adventures together, I don't know. I don't think it gets better than that.
Well, mine is not what you think it's going to be. It's a phrase I've used a few times before, and I was reminded of only recently by someone I know. Replace busy with stupid. So, yes, I'm very busy at the moment. Could become, I'm very stupid at the moment. And that leads to Stephen Covey's Quadrant 2, something that we recently did an episode about.
Yes. But what if you're really busy with a lot of awesome high impact things?
Let's not complicate things. Like just
okay, sorry. I'll just stay stupid. I'll just stay stupid and not question your thinking.
Just because there's always
I know what you're saying.
A way to be more organized.
For sure. And I would just say that I am hyper organized and very busy, but my life is full of richness at work and full of richness in my life. I don't think it could be any better, but I know what you're saying. You're saying something different than that.
Yeah.
It's being busy with trivial things and, not things when you're going moment to moment, loving what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not even going to give you the chance to try stitch those two together. But what I am going to say is we're talking about an interesting subject today.
Yes.
When we were throwing ideas around, I just threw my head back and laughed when you said this one, right? We need to increase pricing, but the sales team is resisting. What should I do?
Yeah. That never happens.
That never happens.
And especially when there's massive inflation happening around, or was it? Well, there still is inflation, yes.
Oh yeah, like inflation, wage pressures, problems all over, right? Supply chain issues. In Australia, we've got a shortage of French fries. You can't actually order French fries as a main for children.
Can you get Spanish fries?
No, I don't know what they are, but you can order them on the side, right? Like you get a steak with chips or fries. Yeah. So supply chain issues. Anyway, I dug down a little hole there.
Yeah.
But it can be a bit of a dirty word, can't it?
It's hard. And the truth is, price increases is a dirty word for a lot of people. Yet in 2022, it was a critical success factor. And it always is, but it was amplified in 2022. And the amount of different companies that we heard saying, I know we got to increase prices. I'm not sure about the customers and blah, blah, blah. But the sales team, the internal pushback was often the biggest obstacle a lot of people had, except for companies that have been around 30, 40, 50 years and were enduring. The real pro enduring companies, they mastered this decades ago. It's just kind of like brushing their teeth. Of course, you do a price increase annually or even quarterly. It's a normal discipline for most businesses. But for a lot of companies in the small to mid-market, they don't have that discipline yet. They haven't had to. And of course, if you don't have the discipline and you don't have the reps doing it and the experience doing it, and didn't do it early, it cost you dearly.
It's amateur hour.
It is amateur hour. And the nice guys and the nice companies and the thoughtful companies, they basically gave up their margins and a chunk of their bottom line because they're playing with the big boys and big girls and their input costs were going up. If you're buying supplies from the big companies like Bayer and Monsanto and all the big, they're increasing it. Anyway, so basically it's a real hardcore discipline in business, but only businesses have been around a while have been good at this. And in those places that don't have the discipline, the sales team resists like crazy because they're not trained and used to it. And we'll get into that more. But I want to share an example to start with. And this to maybe to kind of kick it off. But this is, I worked about a decade ago with a company in the plastics business. Interesting, when I was a kid, one of my high school jobs or post-high school was working in a plastics factory, which I learned a lot about what I didn't want to do. But I learned some interesting things there. But basically, plastic prices are fairly directly connected to the price of oil, right? Because plastic comes from oil. And I worked at the plastics company, and we were more of a nice guy company. But we bought from the big conglomerates who supplied plastic around the world. And our prices of our input cost of plastic, which was a huge portion of the cost, would vary a little bit. But we went through a time when oil spiked. And so our input cost almost doubled. But because of the way our contracts were done and the salespeople and the relationships they had, we didn't push it through quickly. And it really, it destroyed the margins and the profitability of the company. But the thing is, the suppliers weren't taking any hits. They were pushing that cost to us. We had price increases like monthly at that point from them, and they had a system. And we went back and read the fine print in the contract, and it made it very clear that based on changes in oil prices, which led to the commodity price change, they could make price increases on a monthly basis, and we could take them or walk away and try and find the raw material somewhere else. We had no choice. They were very smart. It was probably written into the contracts 50 years ago. Yeah. So they had it. And, we had to get really, really good. And with that company, we had to retrain the salespeople. We had to centralize the pricing decision under the CFO, who in that case, we made his responsibility. And there became a pricing committee that looked at this stuff every single month. And we would look at the future prices of the commodity. We had a whole system that we had to build because we never had to deal with that before.
Amateur hour.
Yeah, we went from amateur hour to semi-pro in a 6-month period after it almost cost us the business.
And then you know what? Probably the profitability became more consistent.
Of course it did, because we built mechanism. We rewrote our contracts with the customers. Now it took a while. Yeah. So that we could pass on those price increases. And we learned a few things from the big companies we bought from. Is we would increase the price quick when prices went up, but we would decrease it slow when the prices fell again. But that takes years to rewrite all the contracts and renegotiate those terms. Like, it's almost like a full upgrade of your ERP. It's a full upgrading of your pricing system, because it weaves throughout the entire business. So the point of it is, look, we're not judging people who really got hammered because they couldn't increase their prices appropriately. And we know people did, and that's unfortunate. But there's some things to learn from this. And one, it's a hardcore discipline pricing. Two, someone needs to own it, and it's not sales. Sales' job is to build relationships and execute the strategy in the market. Pricing is part of strategy.
And sorry, Kev.
Yep.
Customers will always complain about price.
They're supposed to. That's their job. It's called negotiating.
Yeah. Like don't be surprised when you own a tiger and it bites. Like,
yes.
Don't be surprised when customers complain about price increases, but it needs to be a function within the organization.
It is. And of course, the customer's going to resist. And of course, I don't blame number 23. Of course, sales teams resist. I don't blame them. I would if I was a salesperson, because it creates friction. it's hard on the relationships. It makes it harder for them to achieve their goals. Most of the times customers go with it. Most.
Yeah.
It just creates negotiation and working and massaging to make it happen. And the final thing I want people to get, you got to make it an annual event. Like, it needs to be a recurring cycle in your business. And, if you were a winery, it's no different than when you pick the grapes and then you bottle the grapes, right? It's a rhythm. It's a cycle, and it needs to be built in like the best companies in the world do. Interesting. Just a side note. A company that I know, an executive with, and I won't give too much details, but during the massive inflation of 2022, they went to their customers and said, hey, to a retailer, we're going to give you a 4% price increase, and the retailer's like, that's not enough. The retailer was experienced, been around decades, and says it needs to be at least 10. Mm-hmm. It's not that the retailer wanted to pay more. The retailer knew that they were just going to pass it along anyways. And they knew the real costs, and they knew the game, that if they didn't get these price increases now and when they could, it would be harder to do later. And so, there's so many examples of getting this right and getting this wrong. But the main thing is breaking down and having a system where there's accountability outside of the people who have to do the work.
One of the worst things, yeah, you're right, Kev. One of the worst things that you can do is let price increases be led by an absence of profitability. Okay, so we begin by saying, oh, last quarter or the quarter before or last year, we didn't make the profit that we wanted. What can we do about it? Oh, we need to increase our prices. Okay. So there's a team that I work with, and I remember distinctly that was the case. And we got to a point where they were like, this was through the pandemic and all of the price increases that occurred through there. And I was like, we've got to increase prices. We've got to increase prices. We've got to be on top of this stuff. And I kept going on and on. So eventually they were like, all right, I think we could go for like a 6%. And we went into this raucous quarterly planning session talking about pricing, where we were saying, look, 6, and then we kind of went to 8, and we finally we did like a bottom up analysis of the P&L, where it was going, what are the major impacts and changes from pricing that we think are going to occur in the next year. So we landed on 10%. Okay, we got disagree and commit around 10%. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. Fast forward a quarter later, the sales team went out and presented it to the customers. And there's a major multinational that this team competes with all the time. And they put their prices up 15, 16%. And so the customer's like, awesome. We thought you were going to be going like 16, maybe even 20%.
Exactly.
And they were just flabbergasted. And I'm like, look, you got to get more disciplined around this stuff. This is not something that should be led by emotion. It should be led by a continual process.
And that's why somebody needs to own it.
Yeah.
And normally the people that own this are people who are analysts and people who can do strategies and sometimes do sensitivity analysis and things of, well, what happens if 10% of our customers leave? Well, if we raise our prices 6% and nobody leaves, but we raise it 12% and 10% of our customers leave, in some models, that can mean you make more profit.
Yeah.
Like having customers leave can be good for your profitability. And obviously there's strategies. It's not across the board. It's negotiated. If it's an average of a 7% increase, some people should be getting a 22% increase. And maybe some people only need to get a 4. But this is where the science of it and the analysis to know how to do it well with the intent of doing the right things for your key customers. And we had one company, we did a 50% price increase on a whole batch of our customers because they were unprofitable, high maintenance, pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Now, at 50% higher, it was worth it. But that is not a decision that a salesperson could make. That required an incredible amount of analysis to make it happen. So one of our clients
How
they have
many,
something.
sorry, Kev, sorry.
Go.
How many customers did they lose increasing by 50%?
Not as near as many as they thought. I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
But, a normal brain would think they would lose most. Those people didn't have an alternative.
Yeah.
Because we were selling it truly below the real cost of building it. No one else was dumb enough to sell it that cheap.
Yeah.
So no, I think we didn't lose as much as we should have. I don't remember the exact, but it wasn't as much as you would have expected.
It never is.
No, because also price isn't always the most important thing. Now, pricing is important. You're dealing with bigger companies and things, it can be. So interestingly, one of the things that we did, so, generally salespeople should not be making this decision. It should be made by a central committee. And, it helps when salespeople are incentivized, they're paid based on gross margin, but even then, they're often still going to take a sale rather than risk not getting a sale at a higher margin.
Because salespeople who are compensated with revenue only, like the sales budget only, if that's how they get a commission, they're incentivized against the business's profitability.
Correct. And I was even talking about ones that are incentivized with gross margin, ones that are paid based on gross margin. Even there, sometimes they still just want to take the deal, even though they might not make as much. That's why we need leadership. But one of my clients came up with a green deal calculator, because a lot of salespeople might not understand the pricing method. It can be very complicated. So they found a very simple calculator where they could input 4 numbers, and it would spit out whether the deal was green, yellow, or red.
Beautiful.
If the deal was green, go ahead. That's good, healthy, profitable pricing. If it was yellow, they needed to massage it more without talking to anyone, and if the green deals, instantly approved. But yellow and red deals, they had to talk to their manager and work on it and find a way. The main thing is they made it easier for salespeople to manage pricing without getting into the real deep challenges of it. But on the dark side, I want to share a story. Like, one of the companies that I know of, it took them 9 months to figure out their price increases, and they kept talking about it, which happened to a lot of people in COVID. And the problem is, by the time they finally got around to it, the commodity that they were most connected to had already started to decline in price. So when really they should have taken a 9% price increase to the market, and that would have been accurate and right. But because the commodity and accepted, thank you very much. But because by the time they went, it was already declining, the window was closing, and it made it so much harder, and it cost them on their margins. We saw a chart of their margins. It was brutal. So the key thing here is a couple of key points. Of course, sales team will resist because you're making our job harder, and they're supposed to connect us with the customer, but this is a strategic decision, not tactical. It's okay to frustrate some of your non-tactical or non-key customers, and even for the key ones, to negotiate things and make it work. So first of all, they shouldn't be accountable for this generally, but they should be consulted and involved, but their job is to execute the strategy decision. And ideally, it's helpful when they're paid on gross margin because they benefit from it. And especially if they're not paid well on low margin deals. Contracts have to be allowing for this. You have to have contracts that allow flexibility and anticipate annual reviews. The other piece is a strategic view of pricing, the pricing committee, the pricing owner, with financial models and analysis to guide us. And, finally signed off by an executive team, often under the finance function or a separate function. And then knowing that ownership and where it sits, so it's not debated. And then finally, some tools. There's some wonderful tools out there on pricing. There's some great books on pricing and studies around pricing. But even, there's tools that can show you what a 1% price increase can do, or 1% of gross margin. It's magical, the impact that 1% can make, and having tools to provide simple visibility so people can understand it and because people want to make good choices. It's making it easy so to summarize, Brad, how would you say, so my sales team is resisting a price increase. What do I do? What is the answer?
Put the price up. Just put the price up, mate. Explain to the sales team that every year we are implementing a system. Every year, every quarter, we will have a person or team who is not from the sales team, internal or external, to analyze our pricing and to increase that. And this will become an ongoing system.
Yes.
This is potentially one of the biggest impacts to your consistent profit that you can make.
Correct. And in a simple example, in our boutique firm with just over a dozen of us, every January we do price increases. It's written into our contracts that after 18 months of working with us, the price will increase consistent with inflation between 2 and 5% annually. And it's every year it's expected, and every year we do it. And sometimes we make exceptions. There could be a reason to make an exception, but the thing is, it's built into our upfront agreement for it to be expected because it's normal.
Yeah.
Inflation is just a basic price increase. You're not actually increasing your profit, you're sustaining it. And that's why it's so damn critical.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for listening. This has been the Growth Whisperers. And today we're talking about making sure you continue to grow your profits as you grow. I'm Kevin Lawrence in Vancouver, Canada. This is Brad Giles in Perth, Australia. To subscribe, you can go and subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. YouTube, just search The Growth Whisperers on YouTube and you'll find us if you want to watch us on video. Brad's got an awesome weekly newsletter he puts a lot of thought and resource into. You can get that at evolutionpartners.com.au. We also have a weekly newsletter as well at lawrenceandco.com. Hope you have an awesome week, and hoping that you respect yourself and the value you create for your customers by continually increasing your prices appropriately, respectfully, consistently. Have an awesome week.